Hello and welcome. Tonight, Senate Southeast Caucus appeals to President Bola Tinubu to honor Professor Humphrey Nwosu as Senate throws out proposal. House of Representatives makes U-turn on bill to remove immunity enjoyed by vice presidents, governors and deputies. President Bola Tinubu identifies the need for security in the Sahel as he receives Ghana's President John Mahama in Abuja. And Germany leads the fines to Trump car tariffs, says it will not give in.
And on business, Nigeria's finance minister and EU ambassador discussed 1.3 billion euro investments to boost economic growth in the country.
On sports news tonight, all is set as Nigeria battles 5 other countries for World Cup tickets at the ICC Under-19 Men's Cricket World Cup Africa qualifier, which begins on Friday in Lagos.
And from Abuja, the FCT Minister Nwosu promises timely completion of all ongoing projects in the nation's capital.
We begin from the National Assembly, where the Southeast Caucus of the Senate has appealed to President Bola Tinubu to honor late Professor Humphrey Nwosu by immortalizing him as the Senate threw out the proposals in a voice vote. Expressing disappointment after the Red Chamber rejected their motion, the Southeast lawmakers, who had earlier walked out of the chamber where tensions flared over the subject, told Senate correspondents in a separate briefing that President Bola Tinubu has always been recognized as a June 12 warrior, making it fitting for his administration to acknowledge Professor Nwosu's legacy. Our National Assembly correspondent, Gloria Mizuke, now reports.
As lawmakers reconvene for the last plenary of the week, and once more the debate over immortalizing Professor Humphrey Nwosu takes center stage as Senator Eyinaya Abaribe represents the motion.
Aware that his courageous defense of democratic electoral process during the 1993 presidential elections led to the famous June 12.
And I also want to remind us that Humphrey Nwosu was the chairman during a military regime. There was no way he would have announced a result with a gun placed on his head. No matter how much we speak here today, it will not remove the fact that some of us see Humphrey Nwosu as a hero.
From this point, tensions began to rise as the chamber quickly became a battleground of conflicting opinions, with lawmakers locked in a heated back and forth.
General Sani Abacha, he said the reason he decided to order the detention of MKO Abiola was that MKO Abiola proclaimed himself as the winner of the election and therefore as president. It was on that basis Abiola was arrested and he died in detention. If Professor Nwosu had the courage, I emphasize courage as is being suggested here, to announce the winner and damn the consequences. After all, he who is not ready to die for something will end up dying for nothing. We cannot distort history in this Senate.
And that we're even discussing this brings back the pain of the loss of an illustrious Nigerian from Ogun Central Senatorial District. To attempt to immortalize or honor anyone who was involved with the annulment of June 12 that led to the death of MK Abiola is to undermine the insufficient recognition that has been given to him. It is indeed to also set a very bad precedent.
To stay here and not acknowledge that Humphrey was a fighter who stood his grounds against the military leadership to ensure that democracy was enthroned is most uncharitable.
The fiery debate clearly underscored the lingering tension surrounding the annulled June 12 presidential elections.
To immortalize him by naming the INEC headquarters in Abuja after him. Those in favor of this bill say aye. Those against say nay. Nay. The nays have it.
Angered by the outcome, Southeast senators, led by Senator Abaribe, walk out of the chamber and reconvene an emergency briefing.
We can also use this opportunity to appeal to the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to honor the man who made sure that that election held.
Separately, the Senate debated a bill to amend the Electoral Act, canvassing for same-day elections to cut cost.
To amend the Electoral Act 2022 to provide for the participation of elected office holders and statutory delegates, provide for the schedule of election to hold on the same day and reduce the period of campaign in election, and for other related matters 2025 second reading taken.
The Senate subsequently adjourned for 4 weeks for the Salah and Easter holidays. From the National Assembly, Gloria Omezuke, Channels Television News.
Still, the Senate and the upper legislative chamber is pushing for same-day elections in a bid to cut costs and boost voter turnout. The proposed amendment to the Electoral Act 2022 has scaled second reading, with lawmakers debating its impact on Nigeria's democratic process. Leading the debate on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2025, Senator Saliu Mustapha highlighted the unsustainable cost of elections, which has snowballed from 1.5 billion naira in 1999 to 350 billion naira in 2023. Our National Assembly correspondent Terry Kumi reports.
Is referred to Committee on Public.
For the third day running, the House of Representatives has listed a number of constitution amendment bills for second reading. But before then, the majority leader of the House moves for a rescission on 2 bills which scaled second reading the previous day.
A bill for an act to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended to qualify the immunity conferred on the President, remove the immunity conferred on the Vice President, the governors and their deputies, and the other is a bill for an act to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 to review the penalties for certain capital offenses in alignment with relevant international best practices and for related matters. We're aware that the provisions of the bills require that the House will take a second look at it. It's something that we have to debate later on in more detailed form, and I thank you for your understanding. The sponsors of the bill, they also understood that for now, we'll keep it until we debate later on in a more thorough, comprehensive form. Thank you.
Afterwards, 32 constitution amendment bills are read for the second time. Some of the notable bills include a bill for an act to alter the Constitution to provide for the office of the Prime Minister as head of government and the office of President as head of state. A bill for an act to alter the Constitution to provide for specific seats for women in the National and State Houses of Assembly. A bill for an act to alter the Constitution to reduce the lengthy period for determination of pre-election petition matters and provide for the establishment of pre-election tribunals for pre-election matters, and to regulate the process of suspending a member of the National Assembly from legislative duties. A bill for an act to alter the Constitution to review the requirements that qualifies a person to be elected as President and Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, governors and deputy governors. A bill for an act to alter the Constitution to review the status of the Federal Capital Territory as regards the election of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as well as bills for the creation of one state and Gobir state. Meanwhile, the House, through a motion, has resolved to investigate allegations of abuse of tax incentives, tax breaks, and tax waivers.
It bordered on loss of trillions of naira, based on abuse of fiscal policies, evasion of taxes, which we need to rise up to and curb now.
The House mandated committees on industry, finance and commerce to investigate the allegations and report back within a period of 4 weeks. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
All right, of course, our correspondent there, Terry Kumi, telling us on the latest developments at the House of Representatives. Now, let's move on. And President Bola Tinubu has identified the need for security in the Sahel and economic development of ECOWAS as reasons to keep a bridge between the two regions open. The president was speaking after receiving the president of Ghana, John Mahama, at the State House in Abuja. Our State House correspondent, Larry Lasisi, now reports.
Twofold: to thank him for the honor done me during my inauguration, but also to brief him on a visit I made to the Sahelian countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, and to bring him up to date with some of the issues that I discussed with him. As ECOWAS chairman, it's my duty to come and brief him on some of the concerns that were raised there, so that we continue to see how to dialogue with those other countries. Well, it's a complicated situation, and it's not as easy as we might think, but we just need to continue to dialogue and see how we can continue to cooperate together.
I feel good that he's here in the first place, and I'm indeed very happy of the effort is made to have a bridge between the AES countries and the ECOWAS. It's not a bad idea for us because of the security situation in the Sahel region and what economic opportunity that we must embark to ensure security of life and properties of our citizens. The innocent people in this episode are the citizens of those countries. Not much about us, the leadership. The citizens must be the first, beneficiary and the first part of reasons together.
Over now to Bayelsa State, where Governor Doye has issued a stern warning against a planned political gathering linked to FCT Minister Mr. Nwosu. Speaking at the 37th State Security Council meeting, Governor Doye described the event advertised on social media as a reception and political rally as a potential threat to the state's hard-won peace. He has directed that no state-owned facility be made available for the event.
Some persons from this state, particularly one George Turner, is threatening the peace of this state. And recently there is a Facebook report with his own number that is going to host the Minister of FCT in Tombia roundabout in Bayelsa. The minister is not from Bayelsa State. This is not FCT. This is Bayelsa State. All service commanders should be at alert. That meeting must not take place in Bayelsa State. He can host his minister anywhere outside Bayelsa State. And I direct further that no public place, no public school, no public place, infrastructure should be used by anybody except by the approval of the state government. Every public facility in this state owned by the Bayelsa state government, nobody can use it except with the express approval of the Bayelsa state government. And nobody should import and export insecurity in their states to Bayelsa state. And so service commanders, you are put on alert that any of such gatherings should not and will not hold in Bayelsa state.
In part two, after the break, a Federal Capital Territory High Court dismisses charge of criminal misappropriation filed against Zinox Technologies, its chairman, Leo Stan Eke, his wife, Choma, and 10 others. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you have just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Senate Southeast Caucus appeals to President Bola Tinubu to honor Professor Humphrey Nwosu as Senate throws out proposal. House of Representatives makes U-turn on bill to remove immunity enjoyed by Vice President, governors, and deputies. President Bola Tinubu identifies the need for security in the Sahel as he receives Ghana's President John Mahama in Abuja. And Germany leads defiance to President Trump car tariffs, says it will not give in. The relative political calm in Rivers State following the declaration of a state of emergency and the appointment of a sole administrator appears to be fading. This is after the sole administrator, retired Vice Admiral Ibok Ete-Ibas, suspended statutory bodies in the state, a decision that has sparked mixed reactions from political actors and civil society groups. While some argue the move is necessary to maintain order under the emergency rule, others see it as a politically driven attempt to sideline constitutional governance and weaken public accountability. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Labour Congress has issued an ultimatum demanding the immediate payment of salaries to state and local government workers.
The declaration of state of emergency in Rivers State and the appointment of retired Vice Admiral Ibok Ete-Ibas as sole administrator are, according to President Bola Tinubu, measures to restore political stability in the South state.
Ibok Ete-Ibas, CFR, retired.
Vice Admiral Ibas has, since assuming office exactly 1 week ago, reaffirmed this mandate. Beyond holding consultative meetings, the former Chief of Naval Staff has also sworn in a new secretary to the state government and approved the suspension of all political office holders, as well as chairmen and members of commissions, boards, councils, and agencies. While his arrival initially seemed to calm the tense political climate, this latest move of suspending statutory bodies appears to be reigniting political concerns.
This action has grave security implications by creating disaffection and sidelining legitimate government officials. The administrator is fueling political instability and pushing Rivers State towards crisis. Because before now, Rivers State was peaceful, Rivers State was calm, but the administrator and Mr. President have, for their hatred for Rivers people, they are deciding to create and fuel crisis within Rivers State. A crisis, a very peaceful state that is actually welcoming economic activities.
The Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, which has been vocal in its criticism of the emergency rule, insists on the reinstatement of democratically elected officials.
Council also resolved that if at the end of this month of March, the salaries of workers in the local government and the minimum wage in local government is not implemented, and also the salaries of workers in the public service and other public sectors under the state government is not paid, that the State Council will begin to initiate steps to withdraw our members from services in all the local government and public service.
While the NLC and civil society groups continue to challenge the emergency rule, supporters of the suspended governor, who are immediate past local government's chairman, are reaffirming their solidarity with him.
You, our governor, have consistently demonstrated respect for the rule of law. Additionally, in furtherance to the compliance of the Supreme Court's judgment, your relentless efforts to present the 2025 budget to the House of Assembly, which was unfortunately frustrated by individuals who choose to put personal and political interests above the well-being and stability of Rivers State, was clearly seen by all Nigerians. Despite these setbacks, your determination to serve the state with integrity remains evident to all.
As Rivers State navigates this period of emergency rule, the coming days will be critical in determining whether the sole administrator's actions will restore stability or deepen political divisions.
The huge debt owed generation companies running to over 4 trillion naira has limited the ability of the power sector to increase its capacity to generate more electricity and deliver steady supply to Nigerians. That's according to the managing director of the Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited, Mrs. Jennifer Adije. Mrs. Adije was speaking at the Egbema Power Plant in Imo State when the management of the company and the House of Representatives Committee on Power paid a working visit to the plant.
As you can see, we're very keen on completing this project to ensure that we're able to scale the generation capacity of our nation, which is the mandate of the NDPHC. For the benefit of hindsight and for Nigerians that do not know, we have a current liquidity crisis in the power sector, which stems from the fact that the government is owing Gencos over 4 trillion naira. And we're hoping that Mr. President can prioritize interventions in the power sector. Interventions would ensure that we're able to complete all our ongoing projects timely and would ensure that we're able to service our gas payables and receivables, and will also ensure that we're able to put all in place to make sure that we're able to reach and deliver access to quality, reliable and affordable electricity to the last mile, which is Mr. President's promise to Nigerians. And as NDPHC, as the government-owned Genco and the backbone of the industry, we're keen on accelerating the mandate of Mr. President to ensure that we unlock our collective prosperity through energy inclusion and energy efficiency.
An FCT High Court sitting in the nation's capital has once again struck out a case of fraud filed against the chairman of Zinox Technologies Limited, Mr. Leo Stan Eke, his wife Choma, and 11 others. Justice Akpanokon Ebong of the FCT High Court struck out the case filed by Mr. Femi Falana, purporting to act on a fiat donated to him by the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, against the chairman of Zinox Technologies, Mr. Leo Stan Eke, and 12 others. The other defendants are Mr. Chris Ozims, Oyibode Folashade, Charles Adigwe, Obilo Onoha, Agatha Ukoha, Anya O Anya, Femi Dosumu, Nena Kalu, Admas Digital Technologies Limited, Technology Distributions Limited, and Zinox Technologies Limited. In the suit filed in November of 2024, Mr. Falana, on behalf of his client, Benjamin Joseph, the CEO of Citadel Oracle Concept Limited, an Ibadan-based computer firm, filed charges against Mr. Eke, 9 other individuals, and 3 companies for allegedly diverting 162.25 million naira being payment for a laptop supply contract at the Federal Inland Revenue Service headquarters, which Technology Distribution Limited, now TD Africa, supplied on behalf of Citadel in 2012. However, in the certified true copy of the judgment dated March the 20th, 2025, Justice Ebong ruled that the charge constitutes a gross abuse of court process and therefore dismissed the case. The current charges filed by Mr. Falana is the third by Mr. Joseph, whose 2 earlier cases on the same matter were also struck out. First by Justice Christopher Oba of the FCT High Court on November the 8th, 2022, and the second one by Justice Ajoke Adepoju of the FCT High Court on March the 19th, 2024. Reacting to the judgment, one of the defendants, Mr. Chris Eze Ozims, a lawyer, says, quote, "This ruling truly reflects our consistent position on the allegations, and it is good that we have been vindicated once more by a competent High Court." Staying with the courts, the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has set May the 12th as the date to hear arguments on the priority of applications in a high-profile case filed by the Attorney General of the Federation. The case involves allegations of fraudulent conversion of approximately 19 billion naira against Fidelity Bank and 3 other defendants. The prosecution insists that the defendants must be arraigned first, citing legal precedents. However, the court has now directed all parties to file their submissions on the order of applications to be heard. The defendants, including Fidelity Bank's managing director, Victor Ukut, face charges of conspiracy, forgery, fraud, and money laundering, with accusations dating back over a decade. One of the defendants remain at large. Oftentimes, you may learn about incidents of jailbreaks in parts of the country which poses security risks. But the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunjojo, has allayed those fears over an incident at the Koton-Karfi Correctional Facility in Kogi State, describing it as an internal anomaly. Speaking on our political program, Politics Today, Mr. Ojo explains that 7 of the escaped inmates have been recaptured and investigations are on to unravel the circumstances behind the occurrence.
There is a Koton-Karfi custodian center break where 12 prisoners escaped. The question is that one too many. We've had this. When will this stop?
We never had
a jailbreak. Please let me correct that.
So it's an attack on
Hold
that,
on.
yeah.
Yes, it was we never had a jail attack, rather, because it was an insider. Nobody, no wall was breached, nothing. It was their internal issues in negligence on the part of some of our officers, and we are treating that administration.
Is it deliberate?
Because the whole
deliberate?
Hold on, I would not say that because it's still under investigation. But the key issue is that when you look at the perimeter fencing, this particular administration built it. The whole place is solid. And out of the 12, like we had unlike before, I can tell you as of today, about 7, if I'm not wrong, yes, I think so, about 7 of these 12 they've been rearrested. Because now there is biometric capability. And now we're partnering with other agencies now. It was not like what happened before.
Still ahead on the news at 10. Nigeria's finance minister and EU ambassador discuss 1.3 billion euro investment to boost economic growth in the country. That's on business news. Please join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. Let's now head to the nation's capital where Gloria Umezoke is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Gloria.
Many thanks, Ayo. In the nation's capital, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nwosu, is promising timely completion of all ongoing projects. Mr. Wike made the pledge shortly after a routine inspection of ongoing critical projects across the city centre. The project sites visited include the ongoing rehabilitation of the International Conference Centre, the construction of the Abuja division of the Court of Appeal Office Complex, the live camp roads, and the judges' quarters.
We're here at this interchange. Here is Kogi. After I back, you go to my Tama. You can see that the communities have cooperated and the companies CGC have been able to demolish and got across to the road that Gilmore is carrying on. You can see all the other connecting roads leading to the judges' quarters. CGC has promised that all these roads, by the grace of God, will be augmented during the second year anniversary of Mr. President. Indeed, I'm very elated, very happy. I thank Mr. President for the support given to us, the encouragement for us to achieve this.
Well, workers' welfare is in the news again, and the Zamfara State chapter of the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress have given the state government a 14-day ultimatum to address irregularities in the implementation of the new 70,000 naira minimum wage. The leaders of the 2 labour centres in the state issued the ultimatum after an emergency meeting in Gusau, the state capital. The state chairman of the NLC, Mr. Sani Haliru, and the state chairman of the TUC, Mr. Saidu Mudi, criticized the discrepancies in the salary payments, stating that some workers were unjustly removed from the payroll. They raised concerns that the salary structure used for the March payments did not align with the agreements reached in the last memorandum of understanding signed with the state government.
We bent because of the trust we have on him. Until yesterday, we are scouting to get the table, but it's yet. When we called the head of service, fortunately, he was on medical trip. He sent us to POMSEC establishment. We met POMSEC establishment. As we were talking, he says he had no any document. And for him to go and look for it that evening, it's not possible. Let's make it today. When we see the salary, we can come and discuss and see how to come up with circular and to sign the table. To our dismay, 3 o'clock in the morning, I started having call. And honestly speaking, since then I could not close my eyes. So the 2 weeks given is for the people that were removed unlawfully to be carried back. Then for the unuseful of table, the table must be out before the public. And then to be used and make the proper implementation of the 70,000 minimum wage. Or else we are not guaranteeing industrial harmony in the state.
Now, in what appears to be a significant move to boost security infrastructure in Nigeria, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, has commissioned a state-of-the-art police command headquarters in Yola, Adamawa State. Now, during his official visits today, the IGP also inspected key police formations, assessing operational efficiency and personal welfare to enhance security across the nation. As part of his engagements, the IGP met with Governor Umaru Fintiri, who called for the establishment of an additional counter-terrorism unit base and the reopening of the police training school in Mbaba to strengthen security in the region. The IGP assured the governor of the force's commitment to proactive and intelligence-driven security strategies. The 2025 Afri-Caribbean Investment Summit has ended in Abuja with a commitment from representatives of the two continents committing to improving ties and increasing investments. The Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Mr. Terence Drew, reflected on the significance of the summit and reaffirmed his commitment to turn the dialogue into development. Our correspondent, Benny Ark, reports.
Well, at this point, for 3 days, representatives from across Africa and the Caribbean discuss how to boost investment and economic opportunities between both continents. The discussion focused on the abundant resources and the opportunities that exist between the two regions.
Do not be bogged down in bureaucracy. Get things done. Cross-border trade is now going through seismic changes. With the policies from America, the tariffs like the Prime Minister mentioned yesterday, you need to think out of the box.
In their closing address, the vision for stronger mutually beneficial ties between Africa and the Caribbean is outlined.
There are conversations already happening between our governments. There are conversations that will happen today and tomorrow between the government of St. Kitts and Nevis and large business owners, because we understand that government and business is what makes the difference. 2 days ago, I said this is the beginning of our future. Today, we are in that future. We can only continue from here.
This summit must not just be about history, emotions, and feelings. It must be about tangible benefits, and it must continue with impact, with us investing in each other. Indeed, we came here to connect. But beyond the smiles and the handshake, we have witnessed in an investment in ideas, exploration of industries, knowledge shared across disciplines, culture celebrated in its richness and relevance, and above all, the advancement of our people, our efforts, and our purpose. This summit reminded us that the economic and social potential between Africa and the Caribbean is no abstract. It is tangible, executable, and inevitable.
The meeting ends with an insightful call for enhanced economic collaboration, cultural reconnection, and joint innovation between Africa and the Caribbean. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
The Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Dr. Bosun Tijani, has announced that the federal government will, through the Project 774 Connectivity, provide internet connectivity in all 17 local government secretariats in Enugu State to be powered by Galaxy Backbone and the Nigerian communications satellite NIGCOMSAT. The minister, who spoke during a working visit to Governor Peter Mba at the Government House, Enugu, noted that the Galaxy Backbone would provide internet connectivity to over 200 state-owned institutions, including smart green schools, primary health centers, the State Secretariat, and the Government House. He also announced that the federal government would establish an artificial intelligence regional center for the Southeast at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. For Governor Mba, his administration is committed to harnessing the full potentials of the digital economy and growing Enugu into a $30 billion economy as well.
Allow me, Your Excellency, to announce several key initiatives that we will be collaborating on. And this will not just be an announcement. These are initiatives that are already in the budget, as I said to you earlier, Your Excellency. The first one is through the project 774 connectivity. We will provide internet connectivity to all 17 local government secretariats in Enugu State. Also, Your Excellency, Galaxy Backbone, which is an agency under our ministry, will partner with the state to establish a digital innovation complex in Enugu, which will integrate a Tier 3 data center, a co-working space for entrepreneurs, SMEs, and tech startups, an incubation hub offering mentorship, funding access, but also acceleration support, and a training center for digital skills and workforce development. In addition, GBB will further collaborate with the state to leverage its existing infrastructure in the state to provide connectivity to over 200 state-owned institutions, including the smart schools, primary health centers, the state secretariat, and, if necessary, this government house.
We know that development is nurtured through collaboration. That is the reason we have worked hard to ensure that the Enugu Digital Transformation Strategy Roadmap fully aligns with the National Digital Economy Policy and Strategy. And so we would be looking forward to engaging with you and your team, having a technical section where we can get granular and deal with this. We're also at the final stages of signing a 25-year facility lease with NCC for the Digital Bridge Institute and the Digital Industrial Park. Our objective is to repurpose it as an academic and innovation hub, outsourcing facility, and digital training center.
Well, that's it from the nation's capital. We head over now to Will Ibong in Lagos for business news.
Thank you, Gloria. Now, Nigeria's Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edun, and the EU Ambassador, Gautier Miyo, have met in Abuja to discuss the EU's 1.3 billion euro investment in Nigeria, focusing on trade, infrastructure, and green finance. Mr. Miyo highlights the EU's role as Nigeria's top trading partner and calls for a structured trade dialogue. The meeting also reviewed the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development involvement and a global gateway investment strategy. Mr. Edun welcomed the investment, reaffirming Nigeria's commitment to economic reforms, investor-friendly policies, and a projected 4.6% GDP growth by 2025. Now to the ongoing legal dispute between First Bank and GHL. The Tier 1 lender has filed an appeal against the Federal High Court's decision, which classified its claim as a simple debt recovery case rather than a maritime dispute. First Bank argues that the order sought was to prevent the fraudulent sale of the crude oil on the FPSO Tamara Tukani. The court also ruled that the arrest order on the cargo expired after 14 days, a decision First Bank strongly disagrees with, calling it a miscarriage of justice. In response, the bank has filed an application for an injunction against GHL and a stay of execution to maintain the cargo's arrested status. Despite the ruling, the Navy cannot vacate the FPSO and the crude oil remains under arrest. First Bank reaffirms its commitment to securing its interests and ensuring debtors meet their financial obligations. Now, the Senate has moved to stop the planned $1.1 billion sale of Lafarge Cement PLC to China's Washington Cement Company, citing national security and economic risk. Senator Shuaib Salisu, representing Ogun Central, urged the Bureau of Public Procurement, BPP, to suspend the deal until a full review is conducted. Lafarge Cement is a key player in Nigeria's construction sector, and lawmakers fear that foreign control could lead to capital flight, job losses, and weakened industry regulation. Senator Salisu warns that Nigeria must not lose control of a key economic sector to foreign investors while local players face restrictions. He calls for policies that prioritize national interests and economic sovereignty. Let's head now to the domestic stock market, which sustained negative sentiments since yesterday as the all-share index dropped further as banks released earnings reports. John Mekwa tells us more.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, it's a second negative close for this week today at the NGX, and it's mostly from the financials where they move the market to the positive and also take the market to the red. So we see the top trades today from Access to Zenith Bank and Fidelity. And Zenith Bank did release their results today, but in spite of that, profit taking is still the order of the day for most of the majors in the financials. Fidelity also joins that. Looking at the sector, so this, of course, puts it in perspective. Banking is down almost 1%, 0.96%. Consumer goods is also down today because of Dangote Sugar mostly, as well as Honeywell Flour. They lost. Honeywell Flour lost about 0.4%. Oil and gas follows suit. So it's generally the sectors are experiencing profit taking there. And at the close of the trade today, 38 billion naira was gotten off the market cap. So it's a very slim one right here, even though we're still around 66 trillion, and 105,000 level is what we're still sustaining. But we have the bear at the close of the trade.
And that's a wrap on business news. It's back to Ayotunde for the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Will. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says his country's old relationship with the United States is over. Well, this is based on the deepening integration rather, of their economies, the tight security, and of course, military cooperation. Here's Simon Pius with more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Germany has said it will not give in and that Europe must respond firmly as US President Donald Trump targets imported cars and car parts with a 25% tax in his latest tariffs.
And this is a direct attack.
Other major world economies have vowed to retaliate, with France branding the move very bad news, Canada calling it a direct attack, and China accusing Washington of violating international trade rules. Mr. Trump has threatened to impose far larger tariffs if Europe works with Canada to do what he describes as economic harm to the US. At least 6 tourists have died, while 39 have been rescued after a submarine sank in the Egyptian Red Sea. The accident happened around 1 kilometer off the coast of Hurghada. The governor said the tourists were from Russia, Norway, Sweden and India, and that all 6 who died were Russian. In recent years, there have been other incidents involving Red Sea tourist boats operating out of the city. Western sanctions on Russia need to be increased, not weakened, in order to bring it to the negotiating table. That's according to Sir Keir Starmer. The Prime Minister accused Vladimir Putin of playing games and playing for time after the Russian president demanded sanctions are lifted before a maritime ceasefire with Ukraine is enacted.
This week we saw the agreement on a ceasefire in the Black Sea. I welcome this as a vital first step forward. But within a few minutes of the announcement, Russia set out new conditions and delays. Now, President Trump has rightly called them out for dragging their feet. And we agreed here in Paris today that it's clear the Russians are filibustering. They are playing games and they're playing for time. It is a classic from the Putin playbook. But we can't let them drag this out while they continue prosecuting their illegal invasion. Instead, we should be setting a framework and a deadline of delivering real progress. And then we should hold them to that deadline
At least 5 people have been injured following a stabbing in central Amsterdam, according to police. Dutch police say the area, which includes Dam Square, has been cordoned off and an emergency helicopter has been deployed. A suspect has been arrested, but the motive remains unclear. The detention of South Sudan's first vice president, Riek Machar, has effectively collapsed the 2018 peace deal that ended the country's 5-year civil war. That's according to his party. An armed convoy led by top security officials, including the defense minister, entered Machar's residence in the capital Juba and disarmed his bodyguards late on Wednesday. Machar was detained alongside his wife, Angelina Teny, who is the country's interior minister.
An undercover specialist, he never shows his face.
An investigative journalist who won an $18 million defamation case against a Ghanaian MP says that although he is hopeful he will receive the money, what is more rewarding is the message his victory sends. Anas Arameo Anas began legal action against Kennedy Agyapong after the MP labelled him a criminal following his investigation into football corruption in Ghana and elsewhere. He initially brought the case in Ghana and lost, but then took it to the US, where Agyapong owns property, and won. And X-Men stars Sir Ian McKellen and Sir Patrick Stewart are reprising their roles by joining the cast of Marvel's forthcoming Avengers Doomsday. The film is set for release in May 2026, with Robert Downey Jr. already announced as playing the villain Dr. Doom. Sir Ian has not appeared as Magneto since 2014's X-Men Days of Future Past. Sir Patrick, meanwhile, last reprised his Professor Charles Xavier role in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness in 2022. Marvel Studios apparently listed the new movie's cast by posting a video showing a row of chairs with names on the back. As well as Sir Ian and Sir Patrick, other names include Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, and Anthony Mackie. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. The highly anticipated ICC Under-19 Men's Cricket World Cup Africa qualifier will bowl on Friday, March the 28th to April the 6th in Lagos as Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Namibia, and Sierra Leone battle for sole continental tickets to the World Cup to be hosted by Zimbabwe and Namibia next year. The games will be hosted at the Tafawa Balewa Square Cricket Oval and the University of Lagos Cricket Oval in Akoka. Nigeria's opening game is against Namibia at the Tafawa Balewa Square Cricket Oval on Friday morning. Shooting Stars of Ibadan squandered a 2-0 lead as the Oluyole Warriors were held to a draw by host El Kanemi Warriors in the Nigeria Premier Football League match day 31 game played in Maiduguri earlier today. Shooting Stars remain in 4th position on the table while the host moved to 12th position. Akwa United beat Niger Tornadoes 2-0 as the Promise Keepers are 2 points safe from the relegation zone. Plateau United picked a shocking away win against title holders Rangers International. Remo Stars beat Enyimba International 2-0 to go 8 points clear with a game in hand. And in tennis, Jessica Pegula has set up a semi-final clash with 19-year-old Filipino Alexandra Iola at the Miami Open. The 31-year-old American halted Emma Raducanu resurgence with a 6-4, 6-7, 6-2 victory after 2 hours and 25 minutes at Hard Rock Stadium. The World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, says it is a little bit more concerned by drug scandals that continue to rock the sporting scene in Kenya. Distance running powerhouse Kenya has invested massively to clean up its image after a string of doping scandals around the 2016 Rio Olympics led to it being declared non-compliant by WADA. But that has not stopped a number of high-profile athletes testing positive and picking up bans. Nearly 130 Kenya athletes, mainly distance runners, have been sanctioned for drug offenses since 2017. That's sports. Is back to you, Ayo.
Many thanks, Chris. And the main news again. The Senate Southeast Caucus has appealed to President Bola Tinubu to honor the late Professor Humphrey Nwosu as the Senate threw out the proposal. And the Federal Capital Territory High Court has dismissed the charge of criminal misappropriation filed against Zinox Technologies, its chairman, Leo Stan Eke, his wife, Chioma, and 10 others. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. You have a good night.